Hello, friends. I'm going to show you how to impulsively decide in the middle of a VJ set that you want to mix in some real-time TouchDesigner content without breaking the flow of your performance. Lots of people approach TouchDesigner wanting to use it for live visual performances, and it can definitely do that. It's capable of nearly anything. The issue is that it's sort of a blank canvas. It's more of a development platform in which you can build performance tools rather than just a performance tool itself. There are a lot of people out there that build entire VJ setups with, mixers and all that other stuff entirely in TouchDesigner. There are lots of components out in the community to help you do that. I also have some videos that get into more detail about how to build your own more fleshed out VJ setup in TouchDesigner. There are also a few people that have made like entire VJ applications within TouchDesigner. AAVJ is a good one if you want to look into that. But what if you want to just use a little bit of TouchDesigner in a VJ set without using it for literally every pixel that you're displaying? The answer to that is to combine it with other VJ software. In this video, I'm going to be using Resolume, but this applies in basically the same way to any other app like VDMX or Modulate or MadMapper or potentially even OBS. The strategy is to use your VJ app as a mixer and a way to play clips, as well as to add effects and things like that. That application is what sends out the final video stream that goes out to the projector or LED wall or whatever it is that you're using. And then each TouchDesigner project basically acts as just a piece of content that feeds into that. You can literally even decide to do this in the middle of VJ set. I guess it sort of depends on the context, whether that's a good idea or not. If it's kind of a more casual environment, eh, you know, go for it, I guess. If you're like running a festival main stage, I should also mention that this is kind of the quick and dirty approach. There are much cleaner ways to do this that involve tools for managing content in terms of scenes. I've made a few tutorials about some of the kind of tools that go into that process. But no matter how much I may want everyone to use that approach, most people don't work like that, especially when they're starting out. So let's say you're in the middle of a performance and you already have some content playing and you decide that you want to mix in some TouchDesigner stuff that you've been working on recently. When you've decided which project you want to load up, open that. And this is where you need to be a little bit careful. If your project is set up in a way that like automatically opens up a output window or starts, displaying stuff in perform mode or whatever, that could get in the way of what Resolume or whatever app you're using is sending. And that's probably not a good thing. So the kind of best answer to that is use projects that don't do that. If you do happen to accidentally cover up your Resolume output, you might be able to work around that by like switching over to it in Resolume later and then hiding that quickly, and maybe people won't notice. But ideally, just kind of avoid that by not using projects that automatically open output windows. Once your project is loaded, find the top that has kind of a final video output. And if this is in a different resolution than what your Resolume composition is using, then if you can, change whatever settings you need to get it to match that resolution. So if you're using a render top, then you can set the resolution on that to match what you've got going on in Resolume. If you can't easily do that or don't want to, I mean, you can also rescale things in Resolume. Just this is the way to kind of get the best quality out of it. But, do what makes sense in the moment. Once you've found the kind of end point of whatever is going on in the render chain, drag out from that and create a siphon spout out, and then give this a name. If you want to have it match the file name, you could use an expression like project.name, and then that will automatically show the file name in there. Or you can just kind of give it whatever name you want. Then head over to Resolume and look for the sources panel. And within that, find spout servers, or it might be like Siphon if you're on a Mac. There does seem to be a bug or something in TouchDesigner, at least on Windows, that is causing duplicate things to show up, but they seem to just kind of be the same. I don't know. Once you've picked which one you want to use, you drag that into the clip grid like it was any video file and click the name, not the thumbnail, so that you can preview it. And you might need to scale things. And if you need to do that, you can use this little button here, and that will stretch it out to kind of fill the right area. Then do whatever you normally do to mix in a clip. So if you have something running on a kind of layer in front of that, you can just kind of like open it up. Then when you want to switch over, you could drop the opacity on the other layer or just clear out the clip if you have that time setting on there, and it will switch over. And there it is, TouchDesigner stuff running live through Resolume into your VJ set. Then you can head over to TouchDesigner and mess around with whatever settings you want and, do whatever stuff you want to do in there. If you notice when you're switching back and forth between things, you're getting frame rate drops either on the Resolume side or the TouchDesigner side. There's a setting in Windows that tells it whether to prioritize background apps. And ideally, you want to switch that off. And that will probably solve the issue. If not, do some research or something. I don't know. Whenever you're done doing what you're doing with TouchDesigner, you can head back over to Resolume and queue up another clip. And then you can clear out your spout or siphon source. And then you can close TouchDesigner and you can open another project and do the same thing and kind of use clips in Resolume or whatever app you're using as sort of a in-between state to help you mix between other pieces of content that are being generated live in TouchDesigner. This approach helps you isolate problems that might come up in your TouchDesigner projects, like if they stall out when they first load or something and you don't want to have that impact Resolume in any way, then having it just be a totally separate process will generally avoid that kind of issue. That said, this is not a magical solution to frame rate issues. Both apps are going to be using the same CPU and GPU and competing for resources there. So if one of them starts taking up a whole lot of processing time, then it's going to drag the other one down too. If you really want to have separated performance where they each get their own hardware, you can use a second laptop with a capture card as a way to feed your content from TouchDesigner from one computer over to another computer, or you can use NDI for that if you have a nice network between the two. If it is on the same machine, though, I do recommend using Siphon Spout instead of something like NDI because NDI does compression and it can also introduce a little bit of latency and things like that. Whereas Siphon Spout is literally just sharing a section of GPU memory between the two apps. So there's like effectively no delay between the two and there's no compression, nothing like that. So it just goes exactly in the way it came out of TouchDesigner, just goes straight into Resolume. So that's all for this one. Let me know in the comments how you tend to use TouchDesigner in your VJ sets. This is just one possible workflow. There are a ton of other options out there. There's even an FFGL plugin that lets you host a copy of Touch Engine inside Resolume. I'll put a link to that in the description. Though if you're running TouchDesigner stuff inside of Engine instances, you don't get access to kind of mess with the network. You just get parameters that you can adjust, and that's basically it. But if you've set up parameters for your content, then that could be a great approach. There are a ton of creative people in the community who have come up with all sorts of different approaches to this. So I'd love to hear more about how you all approach things. If you like this and you want to support me doing more of them, consider subscribing to my Patreon. You'll get early tutorial access and project downloads and other stuff like that. Thanks for watching, and make sure to leave a comment. I love getting comments, especially when they're, positive. And also, you should subscribe if you haven't already, if you want to. I'm not forcing anyone. I'm not even really sure how I would go about forcing anyone. Bye.